where are they? And then the next thing you have to think about is, what do they think? What do they feel? What do they believe? What influences them? What gives them faith in X or Y or Z? So figuring out all those different things and going down that path for your exact customer, that's how you start to build a brand that is magnetic and brings them in.
Hey there, welcome back to the Built Online podcast, where we talk about all things online business, from e-commerce to digital marketing to building your dream life and your dream business. I'm your host, Cody McGuffie, and if you've been with us for a while, you might remember us as the Etsy Seller Podcast. Well, we're expanding our horizons and transitioning from just talking about Etsy businesses to covering all types of online businesses, because we believe the opportunity is so massive that we should be covering so many unique businesses online. And at EverBee, we believe that everyone deserves the opportunity to pursue their passions, live life on their own terms. And we believe in making e-commerce accessible to everyone in the world, no matter where they are, and be using it to make a positive impact in our families and in our communities. We believe that anyone who truly commits to something, truly pursues it with undeniable force of will, that they will succeed. Let's jump into today's show. John, what's up, man? How are you?
Doing great, man. How you doing, Cody?
I'm great, man. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for reaching out. By the way, you reached out, and I've actually heard of you on the internet. I've kind of seen you in passing, and it was cool that we were able to connect and bring you on to the podcast. So we're happy you're here.
Likewise. And yeah, I've listened to the pod and always enjoyed it. So thanks so much for having me on.
Dude, yeah, the podcast is fun. We get to talk about lots of cool stuff. Obviously, it's called the Etsy Seller Podcast, but we talk about Amazon, we talk about Shopify, we talk about brand building, creating different go-to-market, or I guess marketing strategies, influencers, TikTok, all that good stuff, and hoping we can dive into that stuff with you today. I know you're the expert when it comes to some of this stuff. So
that is my world. I don't know about the term expert, but I definitely do it all day. So hopefully I can help a little bit.
Yeah, totally. Well, let's dive in, man. Like, who's John? Maybe you can tell us who we are and how you got here.
Yeah, so my story really starts in college. I was a lifelong entrepreneur, and in college, I really needed to make money. And so I discovered the internet. It was the early 2000s, and at the time, the biggest sites on the internet were Yahoo, MSN, AOL. This is way before Facebook, BuzzFeed, YouTube. Google was just coming up. And I needed to make some money, and I came up with the idea. I always loved the world of magazines and online content, which was pretty new at the time. And I decided to start an online magazine. And I basically put this ragtag team of writers together from my college and started putting content out on the internet, and went about 6 months trying to figure out how to do it and what to do and all this kind of stuff. And then at a certain point, I said, okay, I really need to make money. And to make money doing this, you've got to have a big audience. Everything is about audience if you want to make money doing or selling anything. Who are you speaking to? And so back in the day, what I figured out was most of the traffic, most of the eyeballs on the internet were going to those three sites that I mentioned at the beginning: MSN, AOL, and Yahoo. That's where 90% of web traffic was going. And I thought, what do they have and what can I offer them? Can I offer these guys anything of value? And I thought, well, I've got content. We're writing content on relationships, fashion, pets, style, sports, all kinds of stuff. And so through the course of a whole lot of cold calling and a whole lot of door knocking and begging, I ended up doing a deal where I started providing my content to some of these companies. MSN was the first one. And in return for my content, they gave links back to my website. And so we just had this exchange of, I give you content, you give me essentially traffic. And I built what was for a time like top 5 content sites on the internet in my category, and just built a big ad business off that. And that was kind of the start. And then over the years, I've been an entrepreneur and always at the cusp of where's the audience, where are the customers, and how do you bring them to the business?
For people listening to this, and actually mostly I'm literally curious, because that business is kind of out of my world. I haven't really gone into the content and writing and all that stuff business. But I hear people talk about it occasionally, and I always wish they asked, like, how much money can that make? Like, how much money can that business make and generate? And what's like a home run and what's like a base hit?
Yeah, it's a great question. So back in the early days, this is like 2004, 5. So you can't do it exactly like I did it, but I'll give you my exact playbook at the time. You have content, check. You have traffic coming from all these different portals, check. And then I had a lot of page views. So what do you do with 2 or 3 or 5 million page views a month? Well, the lowest hanging fruit for me was to grab Google, what was called Google AdSense or Google AdWords. I forget what it was
Yeah.
called back then. It's basically you paste some code on your web page, and Google will start displaying related ads based on the content on that page. And it happens dynamically. It just shows ads. And people click on those ads, and you get paid 5 cents, 10 cents, 25 cents. And I was getting checks, Cody, at the age of 18, 19. I was getting checks for $7,000 from my friends over at Google. I still have the
Uh,
check stubs because it's awesome. So that
you're
was,
getting 5 to 7 million page views a month from like MSN or whatever, all these sites that you were doing deals with.
we were getting at our peak, we were getting, yeah, about unique views, unique users was like 2 or 3 million. And then page views
Wow.
would have been a multiple of that. Yeah, it was serious traffic.
And the business model there is for Google, and everybody here has clicked on a Google ad on accident, probably, right? At one point or another. Like you're reading a blog, and all of a sudden you've seen a bunch of ads. That's basically Google AdSense, correct? And
That's it.
if they click on it, then Google obviously gets a cost per click for that they get to charge the advertiser, and then they split that revenue with probably they somehow have a revenue split with the blog article in that case. Is that correct?
That was exactly it. So we'd have an article like 10 fashion trends to watch for this spring. And one of the fashion trends would be camouflage. You want to wear camouflage clothing. And there'd be an ad for, hey, buy this new dress at H&M that Google would put on the page. I didn't put it there. And then you'd read the article, click on that little link at the end of the article, which was an ad. You go to H&M. Google gets paid 30 cents. They give 15 cents to me. They keep 15 cents. And you do that thousands of times a day.
Interesting. Very cool. I'm thinking a little bit. Sorry, I'm kind of going all over the place because a lot of people listening to this are obviously IT sellers or they're brand builders or there's some sort of like people trying to build an audience or they're amazing creators. They can create something, they can create great designs, but they don't know how to like get the traffic a lot of times. Or maybe they do have know how to get traffic, but they want 10x it. Can we are we kind of shifting into like how does somebody leverage this in today's world?
Yeah. So the principle, and this really comes down to the book. I just wrote a book called Marketing Superpowers, marketingsuperpowersbook.com. You can go check it out.
Awesome.
The principle that I used then and I've been using now for, going on 20 years is just figuring out where the audience is and how do you get them over to what you are
Mm,
doing and how do you get the right ones, because it's not just anybody. I don't need, 40-year-old men coming to see a product that I'm trying to sell to 12-year-old girls. That's not going to help me. How do you find the right people and bring them over to your product? And back in the early 2000s, it was, for me, the biggest web portals had the traffic. Then it was Google and getting into Google SEO. Then it was YouTube, and I built a whole YouTube influencer business, which eventually became Influicity, my agency. And so figuring out where they are step by step. And so if I had to fast forward to 2024, where are they? Well, a lot of people are on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're on YouTube. They're also in places like Google. They're also in places like Facebook. A lot of people put Google and Facebook aside because Instagram and TikTok are way sexier. Way more traffic comes from Google and Facebook than anywhere else. And so just figuring out where they are and then developing a strategy to attract them to you in a magnetic way. I like to
mm.
think about it like, instead of me going and banging on your door and begging you to try my product, how do I make it so that I am so enticing that you're beating a pathway down to my door? And that's what I
Mm.
get into in detail in the book. And once you can figure that out, building a business is much easier.
Interesting. I agree with this completely, by the way. Like when we launched EverBee and probably our past other businesses, but it took a couple businesses for me to actually figure this out is that you really just need to understand where your customers or where your potential customers hang out. Basically, you're saying the same thing is like,
Yeah.
where are they? Like where do they consume information? Where do they consume educational content? Where do they come talk with their friends about products like mine? And for us, it was like for Everbee, it was like people talk on Facebook groups. They talk on Facebook. They also hang out on YouTube a lot. They hang out on TikTok and Instagram a little bit, and they do, but they usually don't click anything on TikTok and Instagram for us. And of course, Google, they go to like, how do I build an Etsy shop? And so naturally, we're going to be there to serve our people, but we need to be in the right places if we want the opportunity to serve them.
And I
Interesting.
bet you, taking it a level deeper, so where are they? And then the next thing you have to think about is, what do they think? What do they feel? What do they believe? What what influences them, what gives them faith in X or Y or Z. So figuring out all those different things and going down that path for your exact customer, that's how you start to build a brand that is magnetic and brings them in.
That's interesting. For someone that's, we can use any product type, by the way, but like, let's say somebody wants to build a brand of some sort. They're starting from zero. What do you want to use for fun?
We can use pet toys.
Pet toys. Okay, cool. Let's do that. Pet toys brand. What would you say? Like, what would you say advise them to do first?
Well, if you haven't started a business yet, if you're in the early stages, you actually have a luxury. And so, one of the things I talk about in the book is the people that are just starting with customer first and then building product actually have a much bigger advantage versus those who build a product, then find the customer. Because ultimately, what you're going to do once you find the customer is do a whole bunch more research, throw out
Right.
everything you've done, and go back to the drawing board and rebuild it. That's what every entrepreneur knows. Whatever version one of your product is before the customers used it is going to be in the garbage anyhow. Version 2, 3, 5, 7 are going to look way different. So, step number one, if you haven't started a business, I'd go out and find the customers. I'd go onto Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, wherever those people are, and just get to know them. Maybe you are them. Maybe you are the person that you want to sell to. Figure out what they want and do that through content, do it through engagement, do it through community groups, do it through Slack groups, through Reddit, wherever you are and wherever your content diet lives. Build that audience first, start asking them questions, and then start building a product, a prototype,
Hmm.
an MVP. So that's what I would do as a step one.
Interesting. So build the audience first, and then figure out the product to serve them with. Step two.
Absolutely, because it's a cheat code. It's like if I'm, we said dog toys. Let's use like products for women who are trying to get pregnant. Maybe it's like clothing that they're going to wear, or exercises they're going to do, or pills they're going to take, whatever that is. If you had, let's say, you built a community on YouTube for mothers to be, for young moms, for whatever that community is, and you had, let's say, 1,000 people watching your YouTube videos, then it's 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. And pretty soon you're creating content, and all these people are coming in to see. What's going to start happening is in the comments, they're going to say, hey, do you have a recommendation for X? Can you tell me how to do Y? It's not going to be very long before you know exactly what's on their mind, and you can create a product, or at least source a product that's going to solve their problem. So that really is a cheat code for building a business today.
Interesting. Do you feel like you have to have a certain personality for something like this? Meaning, at the outspoken, the energetic, the person that you see on TikTok dancing or YouTube, speaking loudly. Do you feel like you have to be that person, or do you feel like there's other ways in order to like achieve the same result?
You definitely don't need to be dancing on TikTok. I've got a big audience, not on TikTok in particular, but on the internet in general. I don't do any dances on the internet. I think you have to pick the format that works for your personality. And by the way, this just say off the bat, the book and what I preach is not at all just you should become a content creator. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about using the playbook of content creators to build a great business. So what I would think about is, what is the form of content that matches you or your co-founder? Is it video? Is it photo? Is it written? Is it voice, like audio,
Mhm.
like we're doing? What is it that you can actually use to put content out there that is going to resonate with people? People never need to see your face. You could just be writing content on a blog and people will see it, or on X or on LinkedIn. So matching your personality type with the content format is step one. And there's always a content format that works for people.
I like that. I think it's cool 'cause sometimes we pressure ourselves into like doing something that's like not even going to be sustainable because we just hate doing it. Like, and I know I went through this whole thing of just like, oh, I need to have this Instagram that's huge, and and I need to like be out there and post pictures. And dude, I hate posting pictures. I hate it. I hate writing in the caption. I absolutely hate it. And I hate scrolling through all my pictures and figure out which ones I need to post. Like that's not even fun for me. It's never been fun. But I somehow was like feeling like I didn't have what it takes for some reason to do this, because I felt like I didn't fit that box. And then when I found like podcasting and stuff, I love to like have conversations that are curious with people. And
It's
it
so
just
true.
it was a nice match for me. And then it just totally relieved all the pressure of I need to be some sort of TikToker or Instagram person because frankly, I hate doing it. And so I think people listening to this can hopefully resonate with that.
I started making content in 2012 and I still have the videos. They were so bad. The audio was bad. I don't know what I was wearing. And I have these videos still. And I was trying to sort of get big on YouTube because I was working with a lot of YouTubers at the time and I was trying to do it for myself. And it never worked. And then it wasn't until 2020 or 2021 that I started to write content and post it on LinkedIn and Twitter. And
Mm.
then I really took off on LinkedIn with the written word. And here I was, I was trained when I was younger as I was a performer. So I was, on stage and I knew how to talk and I knew how to be on camera, but that wasn't working for me. And then writing is what took off. And then I added the other things. So just find what is going to work with your audience and what you can do. And like you said a minute ago, Cody, if you don't want to sit there and scroll through photos and post them, you're not going to do it for more than a week anyways. So don't bother with that. Find a format that works for you.
Love that. So, what are the other parts of the playbook that I think anybody could take away here? Because we talked about, yeah, go ahead. Start with the
Yeah, so
framework.
so the core of the book is really it comes down to one simple formula, and I call it the movement formula because any great brand, any great person, anything that becomes of relevance in anybody's lives has some makings of a movement. And so the movement formula is really simple. It's you start with a unifying belief. What's the thing that I believe that I want other people to believe also? Number two is you multiply it by faith. So, how do I create faith in that belief? Are there books written on it? Are there studies written on it? Are there other experts that believe this too? Do I have proof? Do I have case studies? Do I have testimonials? Like, what is the thing that's driving faith? And the last piece is action. And so, what action can people take if they believe in this thing? And if you sell a product, then the action is obviously buy my product. And if you don't sell a product, that's fine also. Maybe the action is follow me or subscribe to my newsletter or whatever it is. And every single thing in society, whether it's a fad diet or it's a political movement or a religious movement or it's a brand, it's a running shoe, it's a dog toy, whatever it is, it always follows that path of you have a belief, you multiply it by faith, and then you get people to take action. And that's the core of the book. And then I spend 290 pages explaining step by step how to do each of those things.
How does this fit into like the person who starting from zero, right? Like they're just like, I have a product. I think I want to sell like print on demand products, for example. You're familiar with print on demand industry,
Yeah, of
right? You can
course.
sell shirts, you can sell hats, you can sell sweatshirts, you can sell anything. You pretty much nowadays is getting more and more
This book is
cataloged.
print on demand, man.
Exactly, right? You want to sell. So talk to that person right now. Like, how can they leverage this framework or this playbook in order to go from zero or maybe like 10 sales or 100 sales into a million sales one day, or maybe 100,000 sales, right?
Yeah.
What would you say?
And I like starting super small. So how do you get your first 10 customers? What's something that you can unite your first 10 customers around? What's the belief? So it's print on demand. So maybe the belief is I'm selling to people who are used to paying huge prices. You got to put out $10,000 if you want to have your set of books printed or your set of business cards or whatever that thing is, or t-shirts. And now what's possible because of technology, because of my process, because of my invention, you can actually spend $12 and have that thing done. And so you don't need to spend $10,000.
For example,
And
like a bridesmaids, like they're going like a bridesmaids. Let's say my customer is bridesmaids, right?
mhm,
Planning wedding parties and all this good stuff, right? Like they're not going to want to go and buy 1,000 shirts to get printed. So they're going to buy like custom shirt and it says Sandra on it. And this next one says Karen. And the next one says whatever, right? And so I want to sell to that wedding planning party, I guess you could say.
So in that example, I can think of a perfect. I already have like the movement in my mind. So
Um,
what I'd be looking at is what can I throw stones at? So what is the current? What's the incumbent? What are people doing right now that is so old school? That is so dumb. I can't believe we're doing it like this. You're telling me I got to go out and spend $5,000 to buy all these T-shirts? I just need 10 shirts for my 10 girlfriends. I don't want to buy 200
sure.
of them. So I would start by throwing stones at the old way. I would say, "Hey, these dinosaurs over here want you to fork up $5,000. What are they thinking? What are they smoking? This is nuts. Here's how you do it today." And that becomes your unifying belief. And a really easy way to come to a unifying belief is old way versus new way. Old way was this, new way is that. You unite people around your unifying belief, which is the new way of doing it. And that's where I would start, just by throwing stones at the old way.
Interesting. And what platform would you use for that specific example? Like, would you do this on, like, how would you view this? Would you go on TikTok? Would you go on Instagram? Would you go on, which platform would you choose? And then what kind of content would you be pushing out if I'm targeting this type of niche?
If you're targeting brides, like weddings, I would be definitely on Instagram and TikTok, maybe even Pinterest at that point. And I'd be putting out content, super signature, super niche content, talking to one person. So we said a minute ago, how do you get your first million customers? You get your first million by getting your first one. And so the
Talk to
best
me about that. Yeah.
yeah, the best content, especially on TikTok, Instagram, is like you need to make content that speaks to one person. Hey, are you getting married tomorrow? Or are you getting married this year? And you want to get 10 t-shirts for your 10 bridesmaids, but they want you to order 2,200 of them? Forget about that. I would start making content on platforms where I think the audience is.
Interesting. And then let's say you go and build this out, build this content out. Let's say you're on Pinterest or Instagram, wherever the people consume that information is. You have this social, you're getting views, you're getting followers. What are you typically doing? You driving them to subscribe, opt in with an email address? Are you just trying to get a follow and that's all it is? And then you can eventually sell them later to your website, which is Shopify or Etsy or something like that. What would you suggest like the best part of the playbook is?
So I think about it as consumption first, conversion second. So consumption first means you want to get people just consuming your content to begin with. Very few people are going to see a product on Instagram for the first time and make a purchase. It does happen, and I'll tell you when it happens in just 1 second. But most of the time it doesn't. And so it's consumption first. And then once they've seen two or three or four things of yours, they'll follow, they'll start to dig deeper, they'll click the link, they'll go further. So that's the conversion standpoint. And conversion means getting them to convert from just a passerby to an actual customer. Now some people might be thinking, oh no, that's not true, John. I bought something off an Instagram ad yesterday. I saw this cool thing and I clicked it and I bought it. Here's how those ads work. When you see one of those ads that's so good that you click and you have an impulse buy, that company behind that particular ad probably ran 100 pieces of content and decided, this one piece blows up. There's something about this that is just off the charts. People love this. We're going to put money behind that and advertise it on Instagram. And those are the ones that become those blow up viral products. But generally speaking, you got to get people to consume your content first before you can sell them anything.
Interesting. Okay. This is great, man. I think a lot of people listening to this, I mean, they're wide variety, to be honest. Like some people are starting from zero, they have zero Etsy sales and they want to grow their Etsy sales to get their first 10, like you said. Or sometimes people are like, I got 100,000 sales and I'm trying to get to 1 million sales. And I'm actually thinking about opening up a website. So it's like a Shopify store or on WooCommerce or whatever it is. And they want to go from, 10 to 100. And they need to be thinking about stuff like this, probably. If you were to, you said you have an agency as well. And your agency, do you want to talk about your agency for a second? I'm curious
Sure.
personally of who you kind of serve, because I don't think you serve people that are probably listening to this podcast, but it's probably pretty interesting to learn from the customers that you have now.
100%. And one of the frustrating things, so yeah, my agency, it's called Influicity.com. And we serve pretty much, I would say, mid-market to larger companies. And when I say mid-market, I mean in the spectrum of America, like 200 employees and up. So it's larger companies, they're making tens of millions in revenue. But one of the frustrating things for me is I serve, those are our clients at Influicity, but I make content on social media. I talk to a lot of people who are one person companies. They're just starting. They haven't started yet. Maybe they have 100 customers. They want to get to 10,000. And so the reason I wrote the book was I basically wanted to say, hey guys, all the strategies that we use for the big guys and we charge a lot of money for, they're all in the book. Like everything in the book is what we do every single day. I've given you the formulas that we use with all the big guys, and that you don't need to pay us to do them. You can do them yourself if you're a smaller company. The agency, Influicity, we do everything from influencer marketing. We make podcasts. We manage social media channels. We just make a lot of noise for a lot of brands, and we always tie what we do to increased revenue. And one of the really cool things that we do, so just a bit of a 30-second masterclass for your listeners. If you're selling anything online, direct to consumer or D2C, so you make something, you sell it. One of the first things that kind of company will do is they'll say, okay, I'm going to run Facebook ads or I'm going to run Google ads, and I'm going to try to spend $1 and make $2, or I'm going to try to spend $1 and make $4. And that's a very, very common calculation to go through. That's how you do paid advertising. And when you use the strategies in the book, Marketing Superpowers, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this because I see these numbers every day, we have clients that are spending $1 and making $50, making $100. And the reason is because what they're doing is, again, they're putting out magnetic level marketing. So, the analogy I use is like, if you're a fan of Taylor Swift, how hard do I have to work to convince you to buy a ticket to her concert? Not hard at all, right? You're there, you're standing in line waiting to get a ticket. Okay, that's pretty magnetic, right? You can take the same strategies, maybe not at the level of Taylor Swift, but you can take the same strategies if you're selling print on demand products, if you're selling undergarments, if you're selling chocolate bars, if you're selling supplements. Like, you can do this, and we see examples of this every day. Mr. Beast's chocolate bars are sold out at Walmart. Kim Kardashian's Skims have 30,000, 5-star reviews. There's a reason for that. It's because they've adopted the strategies that we know work.
Interesting. Who are some of your customers, or at least one customer that you're allowed to share, and like logo rights and stuff like that, that kind of people can recognize? Anybody?
Yeah. So, I mean, like the big ones on the website you'll see are Toyota, BMO, which is one of the world's biggest banks. So we showcase the sort of the big of the big, but there's a lot of companies that are sort of $20-30 million companies. I don't want to say their names, but they're,
Sure.
they're e-commerce companies. They're companies selling construction materials, B2B software, all kinds of stuff.
Can you share with me again, like the framework? You mentioned build an audience, I think was one of them, right? What was the second and the third?
Are you talking about the movement formula or?
I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. Movement formula.
Yeah,
Formula.
movement
Yep.
formula is super simple, guys. So here it is. I'll give you the actual formula. Unifying belief
Unifying belief.
times faith equals action. And let me just explain, because I want to explain why we say it like that. So it's unifying belief, faith, action. If you think about it like an actual math formula, I want you to think about it like this. I have one single belief. I have one basic belief. I'll use an example like the keto diet. It's a good example. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use an even better example. Let's use crypto, like Bitcoin. So
Sure.
the unifying belief around Bitcoin, super simple, is that you should have your own control over your own money. Shouldn't be the government or your bank. Like, if you have $1, it should be your dollar, and you should be able to spend that dollar, and that should be yours. And if you want to send it to somebody, they should get it in a minute. So it's like freedom, but really like you have your own money. And then the faith around that are things like lots of people who seem like they're smart all buying into this thing called Bitcoin or crypto or whatever it is. And I don't know much about crypto, so like don't test me on this, but that's generally what the faith looks like. And then what does that equal? It equals an action that you can take. And the action is you buy Bitcoin or you buy Ethereum or whatever you're going to buy. So
Mm.
the reason we say unifying belief times faith is because faith is a multiplier. It's not like you create faith and it's just like one step up. If you create 3 or 4 or 5 different levels of faith, you are compounding in a huge way how much people believe in this thing. And that
When you say,
leads to more action.
I love that. So when you say faith, meaning, so unifying, I just took notes here too. Unifying belief, faith times action. Now, when you have a unifying belief, that's more so my belief, right? My belief, and then it's also like your belief too. We both believe in the same thing, right? Times 1,000 or 1,000,000, we all have a unifying belief. I'm there, right, so far?
Yeah, so sort of. I mean, the unifying belief, just to kind of, I'll use a different example just to make it more clear. Like, you want to lose weight, the keto diet or the paleo diet, they all have the same sort of unifying belief, which is like you want to lose weight. So that might be the belief, and yeah, but keep going.
And then the faith, I'm still stuck a little bit on the faith. Is this mostly about my faith, or is this mostly about all the other people that have the unifying belief actually have the faith this is actually possible?
It's a great question. Faith is the things that I can do to make you believe more, to give you faith in the movement. So as an example, super simple example here. The keto diet says that you should eat, let's say, I might be getting this wrong, but you should eat more vegetables, let's say. Okay. So what is the proof? Okay, you've just said that to me. I can't just take your word for it because you have, I don't know if this is right or not. You're the one saying it. But here's a study that says we looked at 10,000 people over the last 10 years, and they all did this one thing. They all followed the tenets of the ketogenic diet, and they actually lost weight and they kept it off. That's a faith builder, right? Testimonials, case studies, real people. Like if you watch an infomercial, I'm kind of obsessed with 90s infomercials because they all follow this exact same formula. What they would
Mm.
do is they would have like 3 or 4 minutes of real people, real looking people saying, "Oh yeah, I used the George Foreman grill. It made my food even better. It made food taste better. My food is cheaper. It tastes longer." And they would have real people. So like real people's testimonials is another major faith builder.
Interesting. Okay, cool. And then action, the action is mostly the person taking action to purchase my product, purchase my service, or follow me.
Yeah, in the case of a business, action is really simple. It's buy my product, and if you don't have that yet, the action can be something like follow me, join the newsletter, what have you.
Interesting, man. Um, I'm sure we can talk about all this nerdy stuff all day, which is not so nerdy to us. Where can people learn more about you, John, and follow you and get your book and all that good stuff? We'll obviously link to all your stuff in the show notes in the description.
Yeah, so
What follow you?
the book marketingsuperpowersbook.com, marketingsuperpowersbook.com, as you can get it. You can get it on Amazon. You can search for it, and then you can learn more about me. My name, johndavids.com, and if you go there, got all the socials and the newsletter and all that kind of stuff.
I love that, man. I really appreciate you sharing kind of in the book. Also, I'm excited to read it myself. And also, I just appreciate you sharing kind of the playbook here, because a lot of times, a lot of these quote unquote big influencers or big brands and all this stuff, we tend to put them so much on a pedestal because they're really good at what they do and they've been doing it for a long time. And that's great. It's great. But they are no different fundamentally. Like they're doing a playbook and they've kind of got it to work one time, and then they repeat the thing that works over time, and then obviously they iterate and get better. Do you agree with this?
100%. And I'll leave with this, Cody. I've worked with, so over at Influicity, the first thing that we did for the first 5 years was just influencer marketing. I've worked with 20,000 influencers over the last decade at Influicity. And I can tell you, just looking at all of them, because I became obsessed with how do these people with YouTube channels and TikTok accounts get so big? It's the exact same thing that they do over and over with their own flavor. And they are not remarkable. They're not special. They're ordinary people, just like you and
Mm.
me. And they just happen to tap into something. So if they can do it, anybody can do it.
I can ask you a little bit. I'm curious about the influencer marketing thing too, because I think that's like a kind of an underused lever, specifically in our space. For example, like Etsy sellers, right? They don't know anything about influencer marketing, but we have some amazing, literally amazing creators that are listening to this podcast today, and they don't really know how to get their product out to the world effectively. And obviously, that's what we're talking about today, marketing superpowers. But could they leverage influencer marketing in order to blow their Shopify store, blow their website, blow their Etsy store up and kind of go viralish without necessarily building an audience for themselves?
100%. And the reality is a lot of the biggest influencers only use their influence, their direct influence as a starting point. The smart ones will actually leverage their influence to find other influencers to work on their behalf. So what I mean by that is,
Hmm.
there's a YouTuber channel called More Plates, More Dates. Have you heard of this channel before?
I haven't, no.
Okay, More Plates, More Dates. It's a guy that basically sits there and talks about exercise, weightlifting, supplements, all this kind of stuff. And he himself, and these numbers aren't public, so I'm just going off speculation. He does about $100 million worth of sales on his various product lines. And so you might say, okay, well, yeah, but that's easy for him because he has 2 million followers on YouTube. Well, he actually doesn't make a lot of money from directly his followers. I'm sure that's how he got his start, and that was the spark that got him off the ground. But he has built this affiliate network. An affiliate network is just a whole lot of people that are speaking on your behalf of other creators, of other people who are in the fitness and wellness industry who work on his behalf. Kim Kardashian with Skims does the exact same thing. Yes, Kim has a big audience, but Skims is a $700 million a year revenue company. There's a whole lot of creators. I think there's like 20 or 30,000 creators on Instagram. I'm talking about, other Instagrammers that promote her stuff for her. And so
Interesting.
it's not just about having direct reach. It's about finding others who can tout your message and incentivizing them, not always with money. You can pay them, but you can also give them free product, give them free experiences, give them extra bonus stuff to help get the message across.
You're partnering with them essentially. I mean, you're partnering with them because you're kind of they have an audience that is the same as your audience, but they have the audience you don't in this case. So therefore, you figure out a win-win-win deal partnership that works for them, works for their audience, and also works for your business.
figure out a way to give them value however you can, and incentivize them the right way. And by reaching their audience, you've just short circuited all the money that you'd otherwise have to pay to Facebook and Google and billboards and whatever else. You can just go right to the audience.
Interesting. And then naturally, when they purchase your product or come to your website, you're building your audience as well. So you're kind of like working with. This is interesting. You mind if I ask a couple more questions about this?
Yeah, man, lots of time.
What does that deal look like typically for, let's say, I think you said Skims. I'm sorry, Kim Kardashian's brand. I'm not sure her brand. Is it Skims?
Skims, yeah, Skims.
What is it typically? What do you think the deal looks like? How is it structured? How do they find that influencer? I mean, obviously Kim Kardashian has a brand that she can leverage, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so for a brand like Skims, that's not a totally fair example, because a lot of people would want to be associated just to get within 20 feet of Kim, virtually
Sure.
or physically. So she has and you don't have to be Kim Kardashian, but once you have any kind of a movement that is attracting people, I myself do this because I have an audience on LinkedIn who are other influential business people, and so I can leverage them too when it makes sense. But finding people who are attracted to your brand and figuring out how to provide value. So let's just go two ways. One is you pay them. You pay them money up front. Obviously, if you're starting out, harder to do that. Two is you incentivize them with a referral/commission fee. And I would be generous with that, especially on the first one. So I would say, listen, my product sells for $50. My profit on it, whether you want to reveal it or not, my profit on it is, let's say, $30. I can give you $20, or I can give you $25, or I'll give you $30. That's all my profit on that first transaction, because you know yourself, you're going to have a second, a third, a fourth repeat transaction. That's where you'll make your money. So putting together some kind of referral fee is a second way to do it, and the third way to do it is just through free stuff. Create a group, and in the group they get free coaching, or they get free first dibs on all your new product, or they get a free 1 month supply of your product, and in exchange for that they promote it. So you gotta have a bit of hustle to figure out how to do it early on, and then when you get to the point where you can start paying them, obviously you can scale that way.
Totally. I do. It's hard to imagine giving them the free stuff to a person that has an audience already, because they don't really typically care about like the free community. In my experience, at least, like they don't really care about like the free digital stuff. They might care about the free product, but not like the community of like the Facebook group and stuff like that. Um, am I wrong there? I mean, is your experience different?
You're not wrong. No, you're not wrong. The difference is if you have something that's truly valuable. So I'll give you an example that I've seen happen. If it's something like weight loss or medical, or something where you truly have an expertise that's not just like, hey, I paint pictures and like I'll show you how to paint. Or, and by the way, maybe that would work too. But like, I guess the point I'm making is you need to have something that is actually genuinely of value to somebody
Sure.
who has 50,000 followers, and not just something that's going to take up their time. I don't want to give you 20 minutes of my time, but if I'm going to give you 20 minutes of my time to learn something that I would otherwise pay $200 for, yeah, I'll do that.
Interesting. Does a brand like Skims, do they, how do they typically get all their influencers? You said 20 to 30,000 influencers, right? That's a lot of people. Like,
Yeah. So
yeah,
at that level, they would have a PR agency working with them. Or I shouldn't say PR, because it could be any kind of agency. But the point is, they would have an agency or employees in house working for them that are literally just blasting out messages saying, hey, Kim Kardashian has launched this brand. You've probably heard of it. We'd love for you to be part of our exclusive community, which is a fancy way of saying we want you to showcase our product for us. Send us your address. We'll send you this free thing. That would be like the big strategy. And then for as you get higher up in the echelons of like more and more high reaching influencers, they probably have events. They probably have an event. I know for a fact, actually, they had an event because I was invited to it. That was a event. Kim Kardashian is going to be at this event in Los Angeles. We're inviting 300 people. You're going to get up close and personal and feel the product, and they'll do things like that also. And so what you have is this almost this like descending pyramid of influencers, of like Kim at the top, the big ones under her, and then you have all the wannabes underneath who frankly want to get free product and want to be a part of this movement.
I love this. This is awesome too. This is a cool playbook. Hopefully, somebody listening to this, or taking notes, and if you're not, rewatch this, because the influencer piece is actually a major unlock. It's actually a lot of brands do this, and you don't even realize it. But what I'm hearing is, to set up for this is you kind of need that, like you said, unifying belief. And the way I look at that is you need to kind of target a specific type of customer, meaning a niche, right? If you can't just be this general store or this general thing for this strategy to work, I don't believe it'd be much harder. So you need like this niche. You need to be talking to the same person all the time. And the reason why is because step number two is then you go and actually find influencers, quote unquote influencers, or people that talk to the same type of customer that you want. And you go and find 10 of those, or one of those, and then 10 of these, and then 100 of these, and 1,000 of these people, all talking to the same type of people. And sure enough, you have the solution or the product that serves those people. Agree with this?
I agree. And another way to think about that is at the very first step, like the unifying belief is almost like that's so in marketing we have this term called a funnel, and you have top of funnel, that's like everybody you could possibly sell to, and then middle of funnel, which is people who have maybe taken a bite off that first message and they've moved down a little bit, they've clicked a link or they've gone to your website, and then the bottom of funnel is people that are actually buying from you. The way to think about it in the context of what you just said is like the unifying belief is everybody that is out there. And then once they move down to that next step where they've indicated some interest, that's when you want to start building faith. Because at the very beginning, it's like, hey, do you believe this? Cool. But if you're just going to keep walking, there's no point in me even having that second level of conversation. You don't even need to tell them you're selling anything at the first step, because until they indicate some interest, you're not going to sort of interrupt them again. Once they indicate some interest, then you can start saying, hey, have you seen this person who talks about the same thing? Hey, have you read this book? Hey, did you see this article that also says this? And that's how you start really building faith.
Interesting. John, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you coming on. It's been enlightening for myself, selfishly, and then hopefully, I know for sure people got value out of this. So thank you again.
I hope so, Cody. And again, we've just scratched the surface. People can go to marketingsuperpowersbook.com and get it and get the entire strategy laid out. And I hope it helps a lot of people.
Amazing, man. Thank you again. Talk to you soon.